how do we not just grow a slightly older and more wrinkled version of ourselves, but how do we tap into the original codes, which are now stored in password-protected regions in our DNA that help you to grow a new body? How do we break into those regions, and how do we use it to create a healthy body that ages differently, that lives a long and healthy life, and that dies differently? So how do we not just grow a slightly older and more wrinkled version of ourselves, but how do we tap into the original codes, which are now stored in password-protected regions in our DNA that help you to grow a new body? And we know we have those codes because we grew a body once. So how do we break into those regions, and how do we use it to create a healthy body that ages differently, that lives a long and healthy life, and that dies differently? So let's start with, how does regeneration happen? Basically, we are built for regeneration. We're designed for regeneration. Now, I want to give you a really interesting fact, which is that there are about 40 million species in the planet. 40 million different species, from grasshoppers to butterflies to insects, hundreds of species, to whales, to orangutans and tigers and jaguars and humans. And out of those 40 million, there are only 3 species that are not programmed for death, that don't have a death program in their DNA. Every other species in the planet, when the female is no longer able to bear children, she dies off. Nature eliminates her. Everyone except 3 species: humans, whales, and dolphins. And it's only among humans that you find grandmothers, that you go through menopause. Menopause does not exist among hyenas, doesn't exist among wolves. You don't have any grandmother wolves. You have grandmother orcas that teach the young how to hunt, and teach them how to communicate, and teach them about life in the sea. Humans, orcas, whales, and dolphins, we do not have a death program in our DNA. We are built maybe for immortality. It's extraordinary when you consider that. What keeps that program from kicking in are toxins. This is the problem we're dealing with today, is that we have become so toxic from the GMO foods that we eat, from the pesticides in our food, from the pollution in the air, from the poisons in our water, that we begin to build up toxins, and our signals get scrambled. And this is what is causing a huge amount of disease in the world today. The very first thing that we need to do is to detox, because we're all born with a waste basket inside every one of our cells. And when the toxins get through the body, they get through the gut and the bloodstream and into the cell takes those toxins that are the byproduct of metabolism and puts them in this waste basket. Now, when this waste basket fills up and begins to spill over, we call that disease. This is pathology, and that's when Western medicine steps in. But what we want to do is we want to empty the waste basket. Now, some of us are born with bigger waste baskets than the others. Some of us have very small waste baskets and get sick younger. So the goal here is to empty that basket, and then have the transport mechanisms that are able to get waste out of the cell, and particularly out of your brain, and back into the bloodstream and back into your gut, so you can eliminate them, pee them out or poop them out. But if your cellular elimination programs are not working properly, you're going to keep building up these toxins until you get sick. And the sicknesses that you develop are cancer, heart disease, and dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. So today, your risk of having Alzheimer's if you live to be the age of 85, you have a 50% risk of having diagnosable Alzheimer's. So when we look at longevity, there are two regulators to longevity. One of them is protein and the other one is sugar. We have a set of genes called the sirtuin genes that I call the immortality genes. They're the longevity genes. And they are down-regulated. They're shut down by sugar. And if you can eliminate the sugar from your diet, these genes will kick in and will give you long life, long health. But 100 years ago, the average American ate 5 pounds of sugar a year. Today, the average American eats 195 pounds of sugar per year. So here's the big problem. It's the white menace. And it's not only the sugar that we eat, but everything that sugar is added to. If you add ketchup to your food, it's all sugar. Look at the sugar content in your foods. Sugar shuts down your longevity genes. It ensures that you will have a premature and ugly death. It shuts down the sirtuins, which are the longevity genes. And it's also, you've got to eliminate the bread and the pastas, anything that will turn into sugar once you ingest it. So sugars are number one. The second one is protein. We eat far too much protein. So the body developed so that when there was a shortage of food, these protein sensors said, hey, there's not very much food in the environment. We have to put energy into repair. And the body would go into repair and regeneration. As soon as there was an abundance of food, the body shifted from repair and regeneration to reproduction. Biology kicked in and said, hey, we've got to ensure the survival of the species. Let's reproduce. And then the focus would go away from regeneration and repair into mating. So if we can cut back on our protein intake, don't think of a daily protein intake. Think of a weekly protein intake. Once a week is all we need. A small amount of protein, a little bit more as you grow older. And it's all in my book, Grow a New Body. This is the paleo myth. The paleo myth is that we were big hunters and we'd get a bison and we were eating bison all week. No, we were really terrible hunters. We were gatherers and scavengers. The human animal is a gatherer and a scavenger. We would eat meat very, very seldom. When we got lucky, we would come across roadkill and shoo the birds away and bring the antelope back. So the problem with meat is that you're going to look great and feel great right now. If you eat a lot of meat because you're feeding a lot of protein, which is short-term survival for reproduction. But you're going to live a very short life in the greater span of things. Whereas curtailing your protein intake is going to allow you to step into repair and regeneration. I've eliminated red meat completely from my diet. I only occasionally will eat fish and eggs. And I get plenty of protein from a plant-based diet. You should be on a multivitamin. Everybody should be taking a multivitamin because even if you eat organic and you buy this beautiful food that we get at Whole Foods, it's coming from depleted soils. It's lacking minerals. The micronutrients, the microminerals are essential. Be careful with the latest fad, the latest hot thing. That's very Western, masculine, patriarchal thinking. We're waiting for the vaccine, for example, with the COVID virus. We're waiting for the magic cure. No, you don't want to be part of that group, that statistical group that gets sick. And the way you avoid getting sick is by recovering your health, maintaining exceptional health. Don't wait for a vaccine and don't change your eating habits. Forgive, change your sugar intake. When you cut back on sugars and you deal with the candida overgrowth in our gut, suddenly you step into a greater level of health. Another strategy is fasting. You can do intermittent fasting. We used to feast and fast because we never had 3 meals a day. We've been eating 3 meals a day since we were born. Historically, our great ancestors ate one meal every 2 days, or they ate one meal a day if they were lucky. They would feast when they would find a grove of berries, or they would find nuts or they would fast until the next lucky find. The fasting period allowed you to go into repair and regeneration. The feasting period allowed you to go into building muscle and to building tissue. Feasting and fasting is the formula. Whether you do 18 hours of fasting, 6 hours of feeding, or you do, eating every other day. So find what works for your system. But by all means, most of us use food for comfort. If you're in a protocol, like a 7-day grow new body protocol or a 2-week grow new body protocol, you eliminate the sugars, the honeys, the stevia, all of the sweeteners, so that you can go into ketosis. You can begin burning fat for fuel, and that'll take you into repair and regeneration. The problem is that if you cheat only once during that period, you've got to start all over again. It's a very non-forgiving system. So starting today, we've got to make the choices that will create health. And this is the basis of Grow a New Body. You create the conditions for health and disease goes away. You don't have to treat disease. It never appears. The body has natural defenses. You don't get sick. That's number one. So the process is you detox the brain, you upgrade the brain with the brain nutrients and supplements. And then you create psychosomatic health. This is what will switch off the production of the stress hormones of adrenaline and cortisol and turn on the production of the bliss hormones. You'll be able to relax deeply, to de-stress. You get out of fight or flight, and then the body can go into regeneration. It's about making a choice. It's about saying, yes, I will choose my health, even in the face of all of the commercials, all the advertising, all of the latest nutritional fads. I will eat organic, eat clean, eat for nutrients. Don't eat for taste anymore. I don't eat for flavor anymore. I eat for nutrition, and it can be very flavorful. That's step number one. The next step, after you detox your body, after you start eating right, you're supporting your systems, then you've got to support your mind. Your mind needs a direction and needs a purpose. It needs to be part of something bigger than you and I are. And it has to be something positive. It cannot just be something like today we're part of something bigger than you and I. We're part of something called evolution by this virus that has been let loose in humanity. We've had to face this many, many times before. And actually, when you look at our DNA, we have not only our genome, and then we also have our biome, which is all of the flora in our gut, but we have a virome. Our virome are the viruses that we have defeated, overcome, and use it to take a step in our evolution. And that's all in our DNA. 95% of our DNA are the fossil records of the viruses that we have defeated, from the Black Plague to smallpox to. So today we're facing a test from nature and an invitation to take an evolutionary quantum leap.